to the Huntsman World Senior Games Active Life. My name is Kyle Case, and I'll be your host on this amazing journey as we attempt to help you get the most out of your life. Joining me in the studio today is my co-pilot, Jeff Harding. Jeff, how are you today?
I'm well, Kyle, and yourself?
I am awesome. It's always a pleasure to be with you.
Always good to be here. Every other week. I know where I'm going to be Thursday afternoon every other week.
Every other week.
Yes.
And that is because we rotate co-hosts with Andy Groff. Jeff is, of course, our Director of Operations at the Huntsman World Senior Games. And Jeff, as the Director of Operations, you know that the Huntsman World Senior Games is the largest annual multi-sport event in the entire world for athletes age 50 and over.
I do know that.
You've heard that before.
I've actually said that before myself.
You've actually said it before.
I have, yes.
Awesome. I think that's amazing, that we get to host the biggest event of its kind in the world here.
It's actually kind of hard to wrap your head around when you compare it to other events that are large events.
Right.
That we fit right in the crux of those other events. It's pretty amazing.
It is. It's amazing. And something that you maybe know or maybe you don't know, but I thought it was interesting. The average age of our participant, it's 65.3 years old, at least for 2013. That fluctuates some. We fluctuate between 64 and 65 years old as our average age. And our participant breakdown from men and women is about 65% men and 35% women.
There seems to be a disparity there, Kyle.
A little bit of a disparity. A little bit of a disparity. It's not exactly equal there. But the average athlete who will compete in the games this year was born in around 1949 or so.
Wow.
And so, follow me with this. This is where I'm going with this.
All right, I'm holding on.
Many of the women who will participate this year were teenagers during the early 60s.
That's right.
If you do the math.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So how many sporting opportunities were available to young girls during that time?
You mean besides hopscotch?
Right.
Very, very few.
I mean, basically there was hopscotch.
Yeah. Not many organized sports, nothing that they could do on a school level or a regional level.
I mean, there were some forward-thinking organizations and stuff around the country and around the world, but for the most part, there just weren't very many competitive opportunities for girls at that time in our history. And that's one of the things that I really love about the Huntsman World Senior Games. We give these women who did not have many opportunities to play organized sports as they were growing up and as they were youth, we give them a venue in which they can really shine in. And that's awesome.
And they do shine.
And they do. That is for sure. Over the past several months, you'll remember that we have had several guests on our show who have talked about that phenomenon, how they grew up and didn't really have the opportunity to play organized. I mean, many of them played. They played with their brothers. Some of them were really forward-thinking and got on boys' teams and things like that. But there just wasn't a lot of opportunity.
They discovered their love of sports later in life for the most part.
Right. And also along those same lines, there weren't very many professional sporting opportunities for women during that time.
Just roller derby, I think.
That was about it, right?
That's all I can remember.
Hopscotch and roller derby. Those were the things
maybe
that you
the occasional wrestler.
In the professional wrestling. But there weren't a lot of professional opportunities. No. And I found an interesting article. I found a list online of the top 5 highest paid women in athletics today.
I would like to know who that is.
This is pretty amazing. While we may not, as you said, there is still a disparity between men and women. We haven't reached full equality. We may not be where we are. There have been some pretty dramatic steps that have been taken. And there are a number of opportunities for girls and for women to participate in sports. So the list of top 5 paid women professional athletes. Should
I do a drum roll or anything?
No, but let me ask you, do you have any guesses as to who might be on the list?
I was thinking about it. I have absolutely no idea.
Okay, well, this is interesting. Some of these names you'll recognize, I'll bet you. Number 5 on the list. Number 5, Danica Patrick.
Oh, the car racer.
Yes, NASCAR driver. She brought in, over the past 12 months, about $15 million.
Now, is that from being a spokesperson for GoDaddy, or is that from racing?
Both.
Okay.
These numbers will combine salary, prize winnings, as well as sponsorships. Okay. But it's all money.
Well, yes,
it's still income to these ladies. So Danica Patrick at NASCAR brought in about $15 million. Yuna Kim.
Don't know
this
her.
Isn't one that I recognized either, but after I read her story, I remember hearing about her. She is a South Korean figure skater.
Oh.
And there was some controversy surrounding her performance at the Olympics this year involving a judging scandal. And so she actually ended up winning the silver medal, and many feel that she was robbed because of this controversial, questionable judging that went on. But don't feel too bad for her silver medal, because she went back home to South Korea, and last year she brought home $16.3 million.
I'm probably in the wrong profession, Kyle.
I think we might all be.
A women's figure skater.
I think we might all be in the wrong profession. Number 3, Serena Williams.
Tennis.
Well, that's a name you would recognize,
yes.
right? Obviously, one of the greats in women's tennis, multiple Grand Slam winners. She brought home $22 million over the past 12 months.
Yes.
That's some change.
Yes. A few changes of outfit in there.
Yes, absolutely, for sure, especially with Serena. The next one, number 2, this is one that I didn't recognize, but Li Na. She is the first ever Asian-born player to win a Grand Slam tennis event. So another tennis player.
Wow.
I need to get caught back up on tennis. I used to kind of follow it. I've fallen out a little bit, but she brought home $23.6 million last year.
Wow.
That's a lot of money.
That is.
Number 1. Any guesses now that you've heard a few of the others?
Now I'm more lost than ever.
Number 1, Maria Sharapova. Perhaps more famous for her looks than for her backhand, but she is also a tennis player. Very, very pretty girl. She brings home $24.4 million last year, which is a lot of money.
Those top 3 are really pretty close. I mean, of course, once you get into the millions, it really doesn't matter.
Right. Well, you get into the tens and the 20s of millions.
Yeah,
any of us would accept those numbers.
I think so.
Yeah. So anyway, big numbers for women in sports this year. And like I said before, women have really come a long way over the past few decades. And they have always played an important part in the Huntsman World Senior Games, even from the very beginning.
On both sides of the table. I mean, not just athletes, but in administration.
Administrators as well as athletes have. We've always had important and strong women who have played a part in the games. And speaking
of strong women,
we are excited to have with us in the studio today a Huntsman World Senior Games Board of Directors member, a Huntsman World Senior Games Hall of Fame inductee, longtime Chief Financial Officer of the Huntsman World Senior Games, recently retired, and I'm proud to say my close and personal friend, Nancy Colarossi, joining us in the studio today.
Hi, Kyle. What an introduction. Hi, Jeff. It's
Hi,
good
Nancy.
to see you too.
Welcome, Nancy. We're glad you could join us.
Good to have you here, Nancy.
It's nice to be here.
Yeah. So for years, you've been involved with the games firsthand, and this will be your first games in a long time. This one in October that you haven't been involved. How many years have you been involved with the games?
I've been through 17 games.
17 games. Yep. That's awesome. Yep. This is our 28th year, so you've been through a lot of the growth of the games, and we want to get into that and some of your memories and maybe some of the fun stories that you have. But tell us first of all how you got here. You didn't start here in St. George, but how did you get here and involved with the games?
Well, when I was born in New Jersey, I grew up and was educated in upstate New York. My college background was in mechanical engineering, actually, and after I graduated, I worked for about 15 or so years with a Carrier air conditioning. Then
this is back east still.
This is back east, yeah. First in Syracuse, then in Detroit, Michigan. But I always had this driving urge to come out west. I just knew that this was my home.
Because deep down, you're a cowgirl.
Oh, definitely. So after about 15 years in the engineering arena, I decided it's time to pack up and move west. So I put my vacuum cleaner in the back seat and moved off to Las Vegas. I had a couple of aunts and uncles that lived there, so it was a pretty safe move. Went there, lived there for about 7 years, worked in a commercial real estate company, and basically my parents would come out in the winters and just join me because they were still living in Buffalo, New York, and nobody wants to be in Buffalo during the winter.
During the winter time, at least.
So they would come out and spend the winters with me, and they were the ones that discovered St. George, and it was one of the great places to retire. So they came here on a parade of homes, bought a place, and then convinced me that this is where I wanted to be. So I thought, okay, but where am I ever going to work? My dad says, don't worry about working.
We'll
Take
find
a
you
year
a job.
off. Take a year here and just help us move into this house, and you'll find something. If you don't, you can go back to Vegas. Oh, that sounds like a good deal. Don't work for a year. I like it. So I moved out here, and after about 10 months, this guy came knocking at our door trying to sell my parents a pre-need funeral plan. And the guy's name was Merrill Barney. He happened to notice in our den that we had a computer.
Was something that he was probably not familiar with at the time.
He was very surprised. This
Did
was
he know
97.
what a computer was back then, or would you see a piece of electronic equipment?
It could have been one of those cardboard things they had in the model homes for But he saw a computer, so he ran back, because it just so happened that the girl who was running the registration for the games was leaving town. And it was August, and they needed someone to jump in. So he ran back and told Kathy Thane and Mona Given, who were the CFO and CEO at the time, I found someone who's a computer expert.
You know, it's probably worth mentioning that Merrill Barney was our sports director,
yes.
And was for years, and we love him. He also recently retired, but we like to give him a little ribbing every once in a while about his technological skills. But a great guy, and one of his claims to fame, in addition to helping out with the games and the sports for about 17 or 18 years, is he actually introduced Nancy to the games.
That's right. So then interviewed with Kathy and Mona and thought, this sounds like it would be fun. $7,000 a year, I can do this. So just started working in registration, and then after the first year, I could see right away, wow, this is an organizer's dream. This is a real challenge to get this thing together. At that time, we had about 2,300 athletes coming in. So it was, we had roughly about 15 to 17 sports, and it was just really interesting to see how much organization goes into making an event like this happen. And I love organization, so as it grew, I just found it such a challenge to just try to keep up with the growth, and just enjoyed every minute of it. So eventually worked into the director of operations, and then when Mona Given retired, she was the CFO. I came in and took her job as CFO, and the rest
is, as they say, the rest is, as they say, history. So, well, that's awesome. So you started in 1997. You really accompanied the games through its dramatic growth phase,
right? And
that had to have been just exciting.
Well, it was. It was. Back then we knew most of our athletes by name. You just saw them year after year, and you just get to know these people, and you like them. You actually enjoy seeing them come. They love to call you. Sometimes they sit on the phone with you a little bit too long, but they have the best of, they were trying. At that time, it was all about trying to grow the games, because we were small and we were trying to grow. And we needed the athletes to spread the word for us, because we didn't have big advertising dollars. Still don't. Yeah. But we were able to use the people who were coming here to tell others about their experiences. So they would call us and just ask us about things so that they can go and spread the word for us.
That's really been one of the hallmarks of the Huntsman World Senior Games, is our word of mouth has really been the way that we've grown over the years, and we appreciate the help that the athletes and the community as well. Another thing that just really stands out in athletes' minds is how welcoming the community is, and so when they went home, they really had a lot to talk about, because the volunteers, the level of organization, the things that were offered to them as athletes was significant and maybe different than what they had experienced in the past. And so they were able to go home and talk about it. The community is really one of the X factors in the success of the games. It really is. By the way, you're listening to The Active Life by the Huntsman World Senior Games on Fox News FM 96.7 and AM 1450. Now, Nancy, you've been around the games for a long time. You've seen the inner workings. You've been a big part of the inner workings. What do you think is one or two of the things that makes this event so remarkable? Well, there are a lot of senior games in the country. Actually, every state has a senior games event, but we definitely stand out among them. And that's not blowing our horn. Well, it's a little blowing our horn, just a little bit, but it is true. It is true. But we do have something different. And what do we have different? I would say
there's three major things that would set us apart. One is, like you said, the town. St. George is welcoming. St. George is a small town. Many of these other events are in big cities. You go into a big city that has 600,000 people and you bring 6,000 people in, you're hardly even noticed. You're a drop in the bucket. You come to St. George, who, when I started, had about 50,000 people, and you bring 5,000 people in, 1 out of every 10 people is here for the Senior Games.
Right.
That is huge. So everybody sees them. We used to have them wear their shirts. Everybody in town knew, oh, there's a Senior Games person. But it's not just that they knew them and they figured, good, I'm going to run that one down. They would look at them and they would actually just approach them and say, so what sport are you participating in? Oh, you're a softball player. Oh, I mean, they just were so kind and welcoming to them. So I think one of the first things is just, I mean, I can remember somebody saying, oh, I can't believe around here, you're teenagers. They're not just hanging around the street, you know, they actually talk to us. What is this about? So it's just, I think, the welcoming spirit of St. George, the Dixie hospitality, that's number one. Another thing is our volunteers. There are events out there. I can remember about 7-8 years ago, there were a lot of new events the senior market was starting to come to life. And a lot of people thought, hey, you know, I'm going to jump on this bandwagon. We're going to make a lot of money. We're going to have a Senior Games event. So they would try, and they would go into a big city, number one problem that they didn't realize, but then they would try to get people to run their events. Well, they couldn't find the volunteers that they needed. Mm-hmm. We have those volunteers, and our volunteers work so hard. I have never seen a group anywhere that I lived in this country that really just steps up to volunteer. They work long hours. They work all year long. They love doing it. The volunteers and not having to pay for that resource really allowed us to do other things that the other ones couldn't do because they had to pay for that kind of expertise.
Right.
And then our venues. I mean, we may not have, the University of Texas, that swimming pool that they have. We may not have something like that, but we've had enough facilities come and let us use their venues without having to pay that other events that were trying to do this, they had to pay big dollar for those events,
right,
for those
for the venues.
Facilities. So by not having that burden on us, we were able to put our resources into things that the athletes could really appreciate. And we had
their experience.
That's right. And we had first-class venues for a town this small. It's amazing that the venues that are available to us. And, it's just with those things, great suppliers, it all just worked together.
It all works together. That's one of the great things about the games. As the games have grown, the community has also grown. And just at about the time when we needed a new venue, the community also needed a new venue. And so one came on board. And then just about the time we had outgrown whatever that new sport was, we found another one coming online because the community needed it. We've really grown together.
Well, and the other infrastructure, the motels and hotels have grown as we needed them. About the time we thought we were going to just split at the seams and you couldn't find a room anywhere, a new property is put online. So there's lots of different aspects that have allowed us to grow with the games and the community.
And it really does, Nancy, as you said, it really does revolve around the community and the individuals within the community, the volunteers, the sports directors, that army of people that help us put on this event, and then the athletes themselves. I mean, we've really attracted some just incredible people, successful in their profession, successful as an athlete, and they've gone home, as you said, they've gone home and told their friends about it and brought them back the next year. It's amazing. So let's talk a little bit about athletes. We've talked about the games as a whole and in general. What do you think, Nancy, in having been involved with the games for 17 years, you've seen a lot of things. What do you think it is about our games and any sporting or athletic event that appeals to a senior athlete? What is it that enhances their life as they get involved with these games?
Well, I think the first thing is couple of the things I think that attract people to the games. One is that we offer sports at different levels. So let's say you're coming in and you're a cyclist and you really haven't cycled for a long time, but you do want to get back into it. You can come to the games. You can enter our beginners division. You can get into a cycling race without being in the middle of some Tour de France people who are bearing down on you. So by having the different levels, we can invite people of all skill levels to participate, which is very good for intro people. Well,
that's good, Nancy. We're running, the time's starting to run down, but there's some things that I wanted to talk about. We are an international event. We have people from around the world. And when I first came on board, you told me a story that just made me smile and just touched a place in my heart. And do you remember the story about the Russian that didn't speak any English that just showed up?
No, we've had a few of them from Russia and from Ukraine.
Which one? Right?
Tell us one of those stories.
Well, a couple of what'll happen is sometimes they'll just come here. They'll get on a bus and they'll just get off the bus in St. George, and they think that we need to be able to put them up. So what we have to do is scramble around and try to find somebody who would be willing to take them into their home and just take care of them for us. But they do. They just show up and they don't speak any English.
There's a lot of smiling and pointing and hand gestures.
But internationally, I think the camaraderie is the part that I love the most. I think my favorite story, I don't know if you've told this one before, about our Irish friend and the 95 plus. We had a group come from Ireland, and one of the participants in that group was 95 years old. 95 plus, and we had another, so he was going to do the road races, 5K, and we had another person in his age group, so he wasn't just going to win the gold.
That's not very common that we have those.
I think he thought he might just come here and walk away with gold, but he did have a competition, and it was Legrand Nielsen, if everybody remembers him. And the two of them were in the 95 plus, and they take off. The gun shouts, and they take off. So they're running and running, and Legrand definitely had the advantage. The other guy was just shuffling a little bit. And it starts to get near the finish line, and Legrand knew that he was significantly ahead. Legrand had been here for probably 7 or 8 years before and had his share of gold medals. So he looked back and he saw the little Irishman who was struggling but just trying his best. He actually just stopped, waited till the guy caught up to him, and the two of them crossed the finish line together.
Isn't that great?
It was just the sweetest thing. I mean, that's
amazing.
That's camaraderie. That's caring about other people. He didn't care about the medal. He just wanted that guy to feel that he was having as good an experience as anything. Legrand knew that he won. Everybody knew he won, but the little Irishman felt really, really good.
And that does epitomize the spirit and the character of the people that come to compete here. It really does.
We talk a lot about our mission statement at the Games, which is to foster worldwide peace, health, and friendship. And that story that you just told, as Jeff said, truly epitomizes what the Games are about in fostering peace and friendship. And we feel that through healthy competition, people have the opportunity to live a better and a more healthy life as they go into their golden years. And it's exciting for us to be a part of that.
It is.
So Nancy, thank you. Thank you for being a part of that for so many years. I mean, really, you've put your stamp on the Games and been able to be instrumental in helping the Games move forward and accomplish our mission and our goal in a lot of ways.
And sitting in the office next to her, it's amazing how she's gone now, but she could make every single caller feel like they were the most important person in the world to her.
That's right.
And I believe that they were at that moment.
And they were.
It's a gift. So thank you. Well, that's about all the time that we have for today. So thank you, Nancy. Thank you for being with us. Thanks for taking time out of your busy, full, retired, organizing life to be with us.
Well, it was actually a pleasure to see you two again and to sit here and talk to you.
Well, thank you. If you're listening live and have been thinking you might want to get involved and compete in the Games in one of our 28 different sports, well, let me give you a little heads up to the fact that registration is indeed coming to an end. The last day to register for the Huntsman World Senior Games is September 1st, which is just coming up. So don't delay. Now is the time. You can register right online at www.seniorgames.net. And don't forget to tune in next Thursday, where we'll continue to explore the active life on AM 1450 or FM 93.1 for those listening live. For those of you outside the area, you can listen to this and any previous episode right from our website. Once again, www.seniorgames.net. And finally, a final thought for the day. Don't stress about your eyesight fading as you get older. It's nature's way of protecting you from the shock as you walk past the mirror.
Amen.
Until next Thursday, stay active. Stay active. Stay active. Stay